Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, James.
Hey.
I
So,
kept wanting to call you James Peach, but I know it's not Peach.
you are not like there's a couple of funny stories and ways that I can go with this and we're going to have to include this because it's part of like our introduction story. Um so when I was in 5th grade, that's when James and the Giant Peach came out. And I was not athletically inclined yet in the 5th grade. Like I hadn't yet hit my athletic period. I didn't know how to
Hmm.
dribble a basketball yet. I didn't know how to throw a football or a baseball or anything like that. So I hadn't actually done any of my athletic journey or growth yet by 5th grade. And so James and the Giant Peach came out, and I was a rather rotund young man. And so it was James is a giant peach. So that was the joke. And and then
Wow.
several years later, well, no, a few years ago, I was in my late 30s, early 40s, and I did the 23andMe Ancestry.com because I'm one of those foolish people who's okay with giving my DNA away. And so I found out that I had a bunch of cousins in South Texas, and we traced our lineage, and they had changed their last name because during World War II, Pesch, it sounded too German. And
Hmm.
so they changed their last name to Peach. And so I
Wow.
have a lot of relatives whose last name is Peach down in South Texas because they changed the name. They didn't want to be affiliated with the Nazis or Germany. And so they,
Wow.
they changed to Peach. So, hey, you're not far off.
Look at that. All right. Wow. And I was actually a fifth grade teacher. So I
Oh,
yeah.
nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is amazing. I gave my 5th grade teacher hell. I honestly, they ought to put me in the dirt right now for the way I treated Miss Jeffus. Her name was Miss
Wow.
Jeffus, and she had this weird, like, pursed mouth. And
Uh-huh.
so she looked kind of like a fish, like. And so instead of Miss Jeffus, we called her Miss Fishface. And we're going to hell, every single one of us. Every single one of us.
Hilarious. Uh,
We're awful. We were
funny.
terrible. All right, I'm going to turn you up one more time because I still
Okay.
can't quite hear you. You are very soft spoken.
Hmm.
Okay.
Wonder if it's my
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being willing to talk to me. I'm so excited about this conversation. I
same.
you and I, well, there went my keyboard. We're gonna have to cut all of that out. Um, so you and I have a similar history in that you and I were both very, very Christian, evangelical, and you and I have both since gone through sort of a deconstruction or a deconversion. And I just kind of wanted to hear a little bit about your background, your history. What do you think is relevant? Like, what should people know about your story
Mm.
that, just whatever background information that you think is relevant? I know you're writing a book. We're going to touch on that several times throughout the evening. But I just, first off, wanted to kind of, why do you think your story would help other people? Like, why do you think this is relevant? What background did you come from? And that's a lot to throw at you. I'm sorry, but just like I just want to get like your background history and
Mm.
where you're coming from and why be outspoken? Why do this at all?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start with that first question you asked around why is this story important, right? Like
Yeah.
why? Um, because I know there are a lot of other women who grew up the same way, and I know what the impact has been in my life, and I want more people to be free, you know? Um, yeah, but I grew up in church, before I could even speak any words. I remember being like 3 years old and being spanked by my aunt because I wasn't sitting still in church, so I have my memories go way back then on both of my parents' side. I've got a deacon on one side of my grandfather. My grandmother was an evangelist. They were both not good people, right? But that's how much entrenched I was in the church from the time I could speak. I remember my first Bible verse was, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. And everybody was so happy when I memorized that verse. So I was really like born into this. Um, One of the things that a lot of people, a lot of Christians in my comments, as I call them, will say is you left the church because of church hurt. And it had nothing to do with church hurt and more to do with realizing that this relationship that I thought I was in was not a real relationship when it comes to God. And I went there because I got saved at 7 years old. Even though I was in the church, I got saved at 7 years old
Can
because
I
I
ask
wanted
which
to.
denomination? And we are talking about Christianity, right?
We are, yeah. And well,
Okay.
back then it was I don't even know what denomination it was. We went to Baptist churches
Okay.
a long period of time, but um yeah, it was New Life Beulah Baptist Church in South Philadelphia, and then there were other Baptist preachers
Okay.
that the
So this
churches
is
I
Philly.
went to,
This is East Coast religion.
East Coast religion.
Okay.
However,
Hmm.
I got saved
I'm sorry to
watching.
interrupt you too. You were going on a click, and I
Oh
loved it, but
no,
I
this
just
is this is fine. I like the conversation.
okay.
Um, Even though I was going to all those Baptist churches, when I was younger, vacation Bible school, all that kind of stuff. At 7, I got saved watching the PTL Club with Jim Baker. I don't know if you remember Jim
PTL, you
Baker.
said
Yep,
the gospel like Praise the Lord network. That was the
yep.
back in the early '90s, late '80s,
It was in the late 80s because I was
late
7 years
'80s. Yeah.
old. And so early
Okay.
80s actually is probably when it was closer.
Yeah.
But yeah,
PTL.
my
They
yeah,
had
my
that big scandal, right? PTL
huge
did. Or
scandal.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Tammy Faye Baker with the makeup and the
Oh,
eye.
right. And then she
Remember that
posed
was
for
the wife.
Playboy and all that years
I,
later.
oh, I don't know. I don't remember that part of it, but I know she was a big crier. And
Okay.
we would laugh and talk about her every time she would cry, her eyeliner and her makeup would run. But that was like the big thing. It was Jim Baker and it was also Jimmy Swaggart, who my
Right.
grandmother loved.
Right.
We were doing that. We were doing Billy Graham crusades, tent meetings. I mean, that was my life,
Right.
growing up. And
So
so he was on
you
the
went
TV,
to those events growing up.
went to Billy Graham Crusade, went to tent meetings. But I was watching the PTL Club on my own at 7 years old. My mom was in the kitchen making lunch, and he said, put your hand on the screen if you want to be saved. And I put my little hand on the screen and I prayed the prayer, that I was a sinner. I confessed that Jesus is Lord. I prayed the prayer and I was so excited that I was saved. And part of the reason I wanted to be saved was I had this aunt who was my favorite aunt in the whole world, and she was a Christian and I wanted to be like her. I mean, and she exemplified like just love, and she was just such a great person. So that's where it started, for me. Um, and you go through your teenage years, and you're a teenager and all that kind of stuff. But I was still in church, and I would go up to the altar almost every Sunday because every Sunday I would feel that conviction, like, oh,
Did you
listen.
get praise for going to the altar, or did you get judgment?
Oh,
Because
I don't really know.
I felt like this conflicted, like it
Uh-huh.
seemed like when I would go down to the altar, because I kind of did the same thing, but it seemed like when I would go down to the altar, there was like this half like, man, you care, like you really
Uh-huh.
care. And then there was this other like, boy, what you been doing? Like, why are you down here on your knees so
Uh-huh.
hard at this
Yeah.
altar? What have you been doing? Did you ever experience that, or was it?
I didn't experience from outside, but it was all internal.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
what I
like,
was kind of. I meant more from internal, like
oh
from the
yeah,
church.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, you got to go again. But there was always that. Okay, well, I listen to secular music, right? Or
Oh, you did?
Oh yeah, if I snuck and listened to like, something secular or I did, it was all these
Yeah.
little things that made me think that I wasn't really saved and I wanted to be saved and I didn't want to go to
Mm.
hell because that was big, for me.
Okay. You got
Oh,
scared of hell really early on then.
oh, absolutely. There were these
Okay.
little you're a bit younger than me, but I don't know if you remember these little tracks, these little books. They
Oh
were
yeah,
tracks
of
that you
course.
would hand
No,
out
girl,
to people.
they were doing that when I was in Bible school too. They were still
Okay.
handing out the tracts. Like I was a
Uh-huh.
server and a
Okay.
bartender when I was in Bible school, and we
Mhm.
would get these $100 tips when you go to clean up the table. You got
Uh-huh.
this $100 bill laying there. You pull it out, and it's like, "Don't you wish you weren't going to hell?" And it's not
Yep.
actually $100 bill. It's just like, "Hey, you're a
Uh-huh.
sinner and you're going to hell." And they
Oh
didn't
yeah.
even leave you a tip. They just left you this hundred
And that
dollar
was a
bill track.
and that was a horrible tip. Right?
You were just sitting there being like, "Well, now I hope you go to hell, motherfucker."
Absolutely. But yeah, my grandmother had a ton of those. But the ones that we had though, they had these little cartoon stories.
Oh,
And
okay.
there was one about this, person going to hell. Then there were the movies, The Burning Hell. There were these movies about being left behind, and
Oh
there was
yeah, the
one,
Kirk
you remember?
Cameron. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, way before Kirk Cameron.
Oh yes.
There's a series of movies called The Thief
Oh
in the Night. Um,
yes.
there's a whole series.
I forgot about that.
Remember
Yeah,
that?
that was
And-
big back in the day.
Oh my God. And do you remember the one? I don't remember which one it was, but at the end of it, there's a little girl in line because her family didn't take the mark of the beast.
And she can't get
And
bread or
yeah,
whatever.
and they all in line, and she has a red balloon in her hand,
Yeah.
and they don't show you her,
Oh
but
my
you hear
God,
this,
I remember this movie.
yeah, you hear the sound of the guillotine, and you see the red balloon go up in the sky.
I haven't thought about this in years.
Yep. That
You
haunted me
remember
for
that?
so long. Oh yeah, because it haunted
They
me.
just beheaded her because
Yeah,
like yeah, that's it.
yeah, yeah. And that stuck with me so long. So yeah, I
Oh
didn't want to
my
go to hell.
gosh. That was so what horrible literature.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It
is
was.
just geez, if that could you even pass that off for children like these days like that. Come on,
Well,
man.
I'm sure
You were a fifth
somebody
grade
would.
teacher. You
Yeah.
can't push that like, hey, this is good for them. This is going to
Oh
teach them
no.
morals.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, and it impacted how I dealt with my daughter. And I mean, I'll tell you about that, if we get to that part of the story. But yeah, it was
Hmm.
that stuff haunted me.
Yeah.
But that would keep me going to the altar every Sunday, because I
Right.
wanted to be saved.
Right.
I wanted to be right.
And
I
so this is
wanted,
about, I mean, you're still preteen years whenever this is going through your mind.
this is 12, 13, 14, 15,
Yeah.
16.
Okay. So
Yeah.
these are the
Mhm.
developmental years, and this is what you're thinking about. This is
Oh
what
yeah.
you're praying about. Like this is what
Uh-huh.
you think this is the real deal.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So
Absolutely.
continue, please. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, I mean, real deal and speaking in tongues,
Oh, you
that
did the
whole
speaking in
thing.
tongues.
Oh, yes.
Because Brady and I talked about this, and he says he can't do it or never like didn't never get
Uh-huh.
it. I was like, bro, it was so easy for us. Like,
Well, yeah, well, it was a big ordeal. There
okay.
was this pastor from Africa named Benson Idahosa that came to our church, and I remember they had.
Oh,
Do
was
you
he
know
the
him?
guy that traveled with? Oh my gosh, I'm never mind. I lost his name. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know.
Please
He had
continue.
this. Yeah, he had this story about how his parents like threw him in a trash heap when he was, a baby, and that, God had somebody rescue him out of that. And now he was this big pastor. But it was a big deal in the church. They had all the people going up to the altar, and
Right.
he was laying hands on people, and people were falling out. And I didn't immediately get the gift of tongues. So they took us down in the basement,
Oh
and
gosh.
there were like six or seven women all around me speaking in tongues and putting their hands on me. And then I magically
Wow.
started speaking in tongues after about 10, 15, 20 minutes of that. It was intense.
Do you feel like that it was something that you just got coaxed into and like you just got pressured
I
into,
wa-
or do you feel like
no,
it
I
really
wanted it.
happened?
Like
Oh,
I
you
really,
did want it.
I wanted to
Yeah,
speak in
yeah,
tongues. I wanted to be
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
everybody else,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Of
But
course.
I do realize what was happening now. Stepping out of it, I realized what was happening psychologically with
Yeah,
that, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, but I was deep into it, and then and during that time, which is so interesting, though, I was still dealing with a lot of trauma from some things that
Mm,
had happened when I was younger. But I
sure.
had, it was like having like this dual kind of personality thing, right? Where on one hand, I'm suffering and I'm doing, like I'm acting out, and on the other hand, I'm praising Jesus and I'm worshiping Jesus and I'm, putting on a garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, all the songs that, they have you sing. And when I got to college, though,
Spirit,
my gosh,
lift
I
up
went
your
to
voice. Ooh.
I went to I went to Drexel University in Philadelphia.
Mm,
Big school, right? I was there for 5 years.
mm.
I went to one party the entire time, and it was freshman orientation. That was
Oh,
it.
okay. Yeah.
This is what my week was like. Sunday, morning service, most times afternoon service. Monday, I think we were off. Tuesday was prayer night at church. Wednesday was Bible study at church. Thursday, there was Drexel Christian. No, first Thursday there was Bible study. There was the gospel choir on Thursday. And then after the gospel choir, there was the Drexel Christian Fellowship, which was the white Bible study. On Friday, there was
Wait,
disciples
what
in,
does that
yeah.
mean?
Well, it was Campus Crusade. No, it was InterVarsity. So InterVarsity is a big Christian organization, and
Okay.
they have people on campuses putting like Bible studies together.
Yeah.
And so, but that was more of it was the white Christian people. On
Really?
Friday, we had Disciples Indeed, which was the black Bible study.
Okay.
Mhm. And sometimes they were trying to do
I
crossovers.
went to a much smaller school. Like if you wanted to
Uh-huh.
be like if you wanted to be in the group, like it was everybody. We had a Mormon in our a Chinese Mormon in our Baptist Student Union because
Oh,
if you
wow.
wanted to believe in anything kind of like Jesus, you just
Uh-huh.
had to be in this group. Like
Oh,
because it
wow.
was so small. So this to me is wild
Mhm.
to hear that like
Yeah.
this is a different experience. Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. And so Friday was the Black Bible study, and then Saturday was choir rehearsal. That
Okay.
was my life in college.
Oh, did you love to sing or what?
I like to sing, but it was the thing that you did on a college campus, right? But that Sunday through Saturday schedule was my life in college.
Okay.
And so it really pisses me off when people are like, "You weren't a real Christian." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Because
you know,
we dedicated a lot of our lives
oh
to
my
being
goodness.
there when we didn't have to be, right?
Well, I thought that's what I was supposed to do, right? My
Right.
whole life was wrapped up in this. And I'll tell you a funny story that I'm embarrassed about now. But I took a women in religion class. I took that in college with the
Mhm.
intent of going in there and preaching the gospel, like making them hear about God. I was so disruptive, James, that the second week, the instructor said, if you just write a paper, I will give you a B and you don't have to come back to class. Because
Because it was that
anytime they said something, I had a Bible verse for them. They were going to hell. It was the devil. It was demonic. It was bad.
yeah.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
so embarrassed about that now. Um, but I was deep in it, you know, I was very deep in it.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, I was still going to church.
Okay.
But that's where things started to
And this
fall
is
apart.
college. You
Yeah,
graduated
that was
college
college. That was
and
college.
now you're still going to church.
Still going to
You're
church.
around what, 23 years old,
About
22 years
23,
old?
24. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
And
you're still going to church, you're still loving
mhm.
it. Inside internally, do you still feel like you have a relationship with
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. And so
Absolutely.
can you describe to me what that means for you? Like what did it mean at 23, 24 years old? What did it mean for Ty? Is it Ty?
Yeah.
Ty is correct.
Uh-huh.
So what did it mean for Ty to have a relationship with the living God at 23, 24 years old? What did that mean to you?
Back then, it meant that I was saved and I was going to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
It meant that, I quoted all the scriptures that God loved me. He was my shepherd. He was going to protect me. He was going to provide for me. I
Mm-hmm.
sang all the songs, Jehovah Jireh, my provider, El Shaddai, and I really tried to live and breathe all of those words and
Mm-hmm.
worship. And I really thought and believed that I was one of God's children, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so if anyone were to come up to you at 23, 24 years old and they were to say,
Mhm.
Ty, you just think you know God, you don't really know God, would you have dismissed them? Would you have been like, would you have
Mhm.
embraced that? Or did you really believe you knew God?
I believe that I was knowing God. Like I was, you know what I
Okay.
mean? I would have my quiet time every morning. I
Okay.
would,
You were
memorize
doing
my
all the
Bible
steps.
scriptures. Oh yeah,
Okay.
I was doing all the stuff. I think my biggest challenge at that time, well, one of my biggest challenges at that time was tithing because I didn't have a lot of money, right? That was
Oh,
the biggest
yeah.
thing.
Because who's got money?
Yeah, and I would feel so guilty, right? And I would feel horribly guilty,
I,
right?
I,
Um,
I think in hindsight, I think it is probably just out of convenience. But the first thing that went away from me in Bible school was the doctrine of tithing. I was like, oh, yo, this can't be true. Like
yeah,
this is
yeah.
bunk.
Oh my gosh. But hey, listen, I wanted it pressed down, shaken, what is that they say?
Yeah,
You
but
turn it
that's
over,
the
your
off.
cup is running
The
over.
tithes don't get you that. The offering gets you that.
Yeah. So that was one of my biggest challenges then. But yeah, but I was in it, I was doing all the things. I was fasting, I was praying, I was worshiping, I was,
Mhm.
despite being severely depressed. I was still showing up and worshiping. I was a Bible study leader at the college. I was leading other people to Christ. I was the
Right.
leader of the singles ministry at my church. Like I was in it, and it wasn't big. And when I've shared that with some people, they said, well, you were just doing all the things. I'm like, why would you do that if you don't believe? Right? Like who does all that stuff? Who lives their life like that if you don't believe in it? And I didn't do it because I thought it was going to save me. I thought that if I'm saved, this is what I would do
Mm.
because I'm a lover of God and I'm a lover of his people and we serve, you know?
Right. So what's interesting about that is it's almost the antithesis of the reason why Mother Teresa did it.
Mm,
If you look at her last writings to the church, she basically told the church like, I don't feel anything. I don't think
yeah,
any of this is real. I don't
yeah,
I don't understand why I've done any of this.
yeah.
She was doing it
Hmm.
for the cause. And then she was reaching out to the church fathers and saying, this doesn't feel like it was anything. Like I never
Yeah.
felt God. I don't feel
Mm,
God.
yeah.
And Christopher Hitchens said that it seems like in Mother Teresa's final days, she admitted that she's an atheist. Like
Yeah.
she did all of this for the goodness of the good of the kingdom,
Hmm.
type of thing, but she never felt anything. It
Yeah.
seems like you're saying that it's the opposite. You were doing it because you felt driven by this
Mm.
internal like passion to be close to this this thing.
Well, I don't know if it was like, I didn't think those things were going to make me closer to God. I felt
Okay.
like if you're a Christian, this is what you do, right?
Okay. Oh,
So,
so
and
similar. So that's kind
yeah,
of what she said. Like this
yeah.
was the task that she had before her.
Right. This
Okay.
is what you do
Okay.
because this is what Christians do. And and that's something I distinguish now. I was just writing about this morning, is that there, when you think about it, there's layers of Christians, right? When I talk to a lot of people about deconstructing and deconverting, I can always tell the people who actually didn't try to live it out
Okay. Yeah.
because because they're like, oh, God is wonderful. And I'm like, did you actually read anything in the Bible?
Yeah.
Have you actually tried to live
Yeah.
this stuff out? Because if you actually tried to live it out, you can't possibly say it that way, right? Because yeah, but that's a whole other layer that I got into after I was deconstructing and deconverting. But I'll tell
Sure.
you the big pivot that came for me because I was going through so much of the depression and I was praying so much for God to help me with that. I was doing like the Christian counseling, not therapy. I want to be clear about that because it's different, right? The
It's
biblical
way different.
counseling.
Thank
Oh
you.
my
Thank
gosh,
you for saying that.
such trash. Let me just say that. But biblical counseling, Christian counseling,
Yeah, it's
praying,
garbage.
going up to every altar, that I could, lay hands on me, hoping somebody would, God would speak to somebody about me. I was seeking and asking God. And I remember at one point I'm like, nothing's changing, you know? And then I looked around at all the women in my church. And I'm like, nothing's changing for them either. Like we've been going up to this altar for like 2 or 3 years. And every Sunday, I'm listening to these other women pray, God, help my husband, save my child. My child is acting up. Help me with my bills. Help me with my job. Every Sunday, the same things. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense, right? It would be one thing if it was just me and I could blame myself and saying, oh, well, I'm just not praying. And that's what I said for a long time. I'm just not worthy, right? As God sometimes I feel like God doesn't like me. And I'm like, no, it's not that he doesn't like me. I'm just not doing enough. I'm not praying enough. I'm not praying hard enough. I don't have enough faith. But when I looked around and all the other women were in the same place, I said, yeah, I don't want to, I don't think this is working. And I
Mm.
didn't leave God, but I just left the church.
Do you think unanswered prayers was your first stepping stone, or was it like one of your last ones out?
No, it's my first stepping stone.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
my first
Right on.
stepping stone. Because what that led me to, and again, this is where, I mentioned before about how people say it was church hurt. It had nothing to do with church hurt. Because here's what my prayer was, James. I said, I prayed, I want to know you for myself.
Right.
That was my prayer.
Yeah,
I threw
that's
away,
humble. Yeah, that's honest.
that's what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
I
That's
threw
that's
away,
pure humility. Nothing wrong with that.
I threw away all of my books. I
Right?
threw away every who's the guy I used to like all the time? He just passed away. Charles Stanley,
Oh,
right?
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Threw away
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
my Charles Stanley books. I had 5 Bibles. I had a chronological Bible, a King James Bible, an NIV, New American Standard, and an Amplified Bible. Got rid of all of them.
How, and this is what age?
This was when I was, I would say 27, 26,
Okay.
27.
Okay. And so
And
you
I
tossed it all out.
tossed it all out, every gospel CD, tape.
Okay.
I got rid of
Okay.
all of it because I said, none of
Sure.
this is working. I need to know you for
TD
myself.
Jakes is out.
I wasn't a big TD Jakes fan.
Who is?
Yeah, oh my God. I didn't like the shiny suits.
What about Creflo Dollar? You didn't like him?
Oh gosh, I didn't like him either. I didn't like any of the I didn't really like that
The
prosperity.
prosperity gospel, there's something icky about it, right? My
Mm-hmm.
dad, even though we were full Pentecostal fundamentalist evangelicals, my dad even said, Paul was a tent maker and he even made tents while he was doing his ministry. So I don't like these
Uh-huh.
ministers that are out here saying,
Oh my
give
gosh.
us a jet.
Yeah,
So
you just took me back when I was in college. I was almost a missionary.
okay.
And
I
they
was
call
actually, I mean, I smuggled Bibles a little bit. I did some stuff. And
well,
we do have only 10 minutes left on this one. If you
okay.
want to, we can keep going.
Yeah.
We'll have to close this and do another one.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I'm good. But
But
that's what
yeah,
they called it. They called it tent making, where
okay.
you would go into a community and do a job, but your intent was to go and be a witness for the gospel, right?
Right.
And yeah, but I was almost a missionary. Going to Kazakhstan. That was what my
No
prayer was
way.
at that time. Yeah. But yeah, but I stepped away. Like I said, I stepped away from church, but I didn't step away from God. And so, but that led me to a
So
place
what
where,
does that mean? to you?
It meant me stop going to church, right? And
Okay,
I was reading on my own. I was, looking on my own. I was praying on my own because I'm like the church wasn't helping. So
gotcha.
but I believed in God, and I was still trying to make that connection and make that work.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I was in that space for a good, I want to say 10 years.
Okay.
And then my daughter was born. And
So, did that
mhm.
change the direction of like your path?
It did. Um, when she was around 4 or 5 years old, I felt, well, actually, before she was 4 or 5 years old, I started feeling guilty because I'm like, well, she needs to go to church so she can know about God. And I don't want to stand in,
Sure.
the way of her knowing God. And I took her to a church service. I did my vetting. I was trying to find a church. I found a church that was doing some things in the community. So I'm like, okay, this is great. They're active. I went to a church service on a Sunday. I was in that church about 10 minutes before these people started screaming and hollering and running around the church.
Okay.
And I'm used to the worship songs, right? I'm used to the long worship and the tears and, the singing and the harmony. I'm used to all of that.
Yeah, the emotional build and all that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But my daughter was clawing up my leg. She was
Let's
terrified.
get out of here.
And I picked her up and she's looking up, she's looking at me, and I left.
Mm,
I said, I'm not doing this to my kid. I don't want her, because I realized in that moment too that my relationship with God was very fear-based. I fear going to hell. I fear not being a good and faithful servant, right? I fear that I'll do something and God won't be pleased. And I didn't want my daughter to have the same experience that I had with thinking that she had to be in fear of God.
mm.
So I took her, so I didn't go back to church after that. Yeah.
So at the time, you still felt that God was a pure concept.
Yeah, I still believed in God.
Yeah.
And I kept I
But
kept trying.
because of her reaction, you were like, this isn't the negative emotion that I want to associate with God. And so you just felt
Hmm.
like, okay,
Yeah, I didn't want
all
her to
right.
have that same experience. I
Yeah.
really thought that there was a different way.
Yeah.
And so,
So you were still trying to salvage the God concept, kind of.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You still want it to
Absolutely.
be, you still want it to be valuable. You still want it to be real. You're at this point in your life, it's still something that is meaningful to you.
Well, I think it was more than that. I couldn't imagine life without a God,
Okay. That's
right?
interesting.
Because
Yeah.
that's all I knew. I couldn't imagine,
Wow. Okay.
you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 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 No. Yeah. I get
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I remember the first time that morals became like an issue. I started talking about morals with other people, and I was like, "But how do you have morals without a God? Like,
Mm,
who says it's right or wrong?" Like,
yeah.
I started having those conversations, and I was like, I couldn't understand how could you, without a God, have anything, and
Mm,
because I just only been taught one framework. So I
hmm.
totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What do you think? Okay, I'm going to let you continue your story because it's too fascinating.
Well, I didn't know anything other than that God existed and that the God of the Bible existed, right?
Okay,
It was, if Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, and he's you follow Jesus, he's the only way to get to God.
right.
And I mean, I had drilled that into myself. It had been drilled into me. So that's, if I want to be connected to God and I don't want to go to hell, I don't want to be outside, this is the path that I have to go on.
Mm.
But and I believe the stories literally. I think,
Okay, yeah. So like you really believe that the Red Sea was parted
oh,
and that
absolutely.
everybody walked across on dry land. You
Absolutely.
genuinely believe that for a fact.
Oh, absolutely. The
Um,
Bible was historical, the Bible was true.
okay, okay.
And
I think
and
I did too. I
yeah.
think I did too for the majority of my life. I don't
Mhm.
even remember when that fell away. when I was like, oh shit, these are myths and these are ancient,
Mhm.
texts. And I don't even remember when that happened, when I was like, oh
Mm.
shit,
Yeah.
maybe some of this shit was just made up. Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well,
I
I
forgot.
remember. I remember
Okay.
exactly when it happened.
Okay. When that happened for
And
you.
yeah, and at this point, I was in my 30s. So
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of embarrassing when I think about it now. But what happened as a result of me saying I want to know God for myself, I started reading the Bible like really intently reading. And I was reading the story of the Tower of Babel.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember because I called my sister up and I said, we have been bamboozled. I said, in the story, they want to build a tower to reach the heavens.
Right.
And what we've been told is that God didn't want them to build something that high.
Right.
It wasn't scientifically possible for that to even happen.
No.
So why would God need to come down for something that humans couldn't do? And I was like, what the fuck? I was like,
Sounds like
I,
a
I
petty
was
motherfucker to me.
speechless. Well, yeah, very petty, but I'm like, it's not even possible.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't have, and then I thought about it even further. We have space stations now.
That are closer to heaven than anything the
They could have
Tower of
ever
Babel could even
gotten.
gotten close to.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and it that's when that was one of the first moments the story started clicking for me.
Mm,
But I was still trying to make it work.
I love that.
And
Okay,
I started,
so we're down to the last 2 minutes of this stream. I'm going to
okay,
send you a new link and we're going to
okay,
continue from here because I'm
okay.
loving this. If you have time, I
Yeah.
have time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
piece this together. All right. I'm going
Okay.
to send you another link in just a second. Thank you so much.
All right. There you
You're
go.
back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is so great.
This is always fun to have these conversations. So trying to think. Oh, we just talked about the Bible stories,
Yeah,
right?
so what we were kind of we were vibing on, you're in that area still to where you're
Uh,
fully committed, but you've
yeah.
come out of that, like, I don't have to go to church every Sunday.
Uh-huh.
You're starting to come around to a different
Yeah.
way of your type of Christianity, like your
Mhm.
preferred Christianity on your way out. I think
Yeah, I was
that's the direction
definitely,
we're headed. Forgive me
yeah.
if I'm wrong.
No, I was definitely on my way out, and it was the Bible stories.
Yes.
And I started reading things outside of the Bible that would have been taboo, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I somehow I came across Neville Goddard, and he's like New Thought kind of teachings and readings. But I had one of the most profound moments because what he wrote, and I was trying to remember which book it was, but he had this whole breakdown about how the Bible was never intended to be taken literally and that it
Oh,
was a
yeah.
metaphor.
Right.
I cried.
Oh,
I cried because it was the first time that ever crossed my mind.
and so how old were you?
I was in my 30s. I was like
Okay. Now, did
37,
you did you
38.
do any formal Bible school education or anything like that?
No,
Oh,
mm-mm,
okay, okay.
no. No,
Because
my brother did.
I had a
Yeah.
similar experience during my first year of Rhema Bible Training Center
Hmm.
when someone suggested to me that the book of Job was a theatrical device meant to
Hmm.
educate and teach a lesson. It was metaphor, it was not real, it was allegory. It wasn't meant to ever be taken as literal history. And I
Right.
was just like, excuse me, what? Wait, what?
Hmm.
What the
Yeah.
fuck? Job isn't history?
Yeah.
I was like, no, 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 no. This is all history. This is fact. It
Yep.
happened,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that occurred, like, to me, I was introduced to that concept a
Uh-huh.
little at a different time in a different way. But I remember it really kind of messed with my head.
it totally shook me.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I remember sitting on the couch, I was in tears, and I was liberated though, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can stop trying to make it make sense. Right? Because, as a Christian, if you're supposed to believe the book, you have to make that stuff make sense.
Isn't that that's the
But I
worst
couldn't make
part
it make
about it
sense.
is that you
Yeah.
always have to try to spin it, try to fix it. You just
Hmm.
tell everyone else that they're not reading it in context because you, the context has to be correct.
Yeah.
Like once you get it in context, it's always right. But you're not
Yeah.
taking it in context. Like that was what we always retreated to.
Hmm. Well, there's that song we sang, "Let God be true and every man be a liar,"
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so if God is right, if this word is right, then everything else has to be wrong. And so my
Has to
way of
be.
thinking has to be wrong.
Has to
I'm
be.
not reading it right. I don't understand. And this is what I see a lot
Yep.
of Christians in my comments, and I call them conditioned Christians because I was
Yeah.
conditioned too, right?
Yeah.
God is
Yeah.
right. So if you don't understand it, or if it doesn't make sense, it's your problem and
It's on
something.
you. Yeah, that's your
Yeah,
fault.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
yeah.
God's perfect. And
Exactly.
this word is perfect in every
Exactly.
form, every translation. The Holy
Exactly.
Spirit is not inerrant, cannot be flawed. So
Exactly.
so it's gotta
And
be on you.
yeah, and here's what I thought back to. I had a lot of questions when I was younger. Like I remember I had these conversations with my mom, and I remember asking, why did God set Adam and Eve up?
Mm,
Right? Because if he
yeah.
knew they were going to sin,
It seems fucked up, right?
right? Like he knew what was going to
You put the
happen.
fox in charge of the hen house and then
Right.
leave these two idiots who've never known anything ever,
Yeah.
brand new
Yeah.
to the entire universe of
Right.
all existence, all planes of existence. And then you
Yeah.
go, have fun. Just don't let anybody fool you.
Yeah, that was one of the stories that when I remember asking that when I was young. And the others, well, there was a couple other stories. But I remember asking my mom about Job
Mm.
because when I read it, I remember thinking his wife didn't have anything to do with this.
What'd she do
But
wrong?
but those were her 10 kids that died.
She lost all 10 kids.
Exactly. And my
And
mom
what
was
did
like,
she do for any of this shit?
right, she didn't do anything. And I remember my mom was like, well, God gave
She doesn't
him children
matter.
again. God gave him new children. And I was like, that's messed up. Right. And I also remember asking her, I was like 12 or 13. So where are all the stories of the other people in the Bible? I said, because it's only about this one
Where's
group
the
of
account of
people.
Job's 10 kids?
Well, not only that, but weren't there other people? Weren't there other tribes? So where were
12.
all those people? And it's like, how come it's only about that one group of people? That doesn't seem
The
like it
winners.
makes sense. Right. And she never had any answers for me with that, but
Mm.
by this time, um, when I got to the Bible stories and I was just reading how horrible they was, I couldn't deal with not I couldn't deal with, but I hated the story of David's daughter. What was her name? Um,
So
not
he lusted
Tabitha.
upon Bathsheba,
Well, that's
and then
David's story, but his daughter Tamar,
okay, Tamar, yes,
who his oldest son rapes her,
right,
rapes his sister.
right.
David never goes and sees anything about his daughter.
No,
When
doesn't worry about her.
when her other brother takes revenge and goes after, I think it's Absalom,
Mm.
David
Yep,
cries because his son is dead. Doesn't do
right.
anything about his daughter being raped.
Yeah,
And when I, like, again, I started reading the stories. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So here's what I did, James. Here's what I said. Well, we just don't need the Old Testament. We'll just
yes. We'll
focus
just
on Jesus.
the old was a type and shadow for the new, and Jesus fixed it
Yeah,
all, and we just need Jesus from there.
that's it. All we need is Jesus. And
Yep. Yeah, I've heard this
I,
before. I love this.
well,
Yes.
I spent my hard on money. I was living in
Oh.
Minnesota at the time, and I was so excited about this new
Mm-hmm.
Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. I went to a Why Jesus conference in Chicago.
Oh no, you did not.
Listen, I, w- I was trying to hold on to, I was trying to hold on. And it was a Why Jesus conference. And I
Yeah.
thought this was going to like be, yeah, we're going to talk about why Jesus. And it
Yeah.
was a whole bunch of like, I don't know, people, the Jesus people that talk about Christ consciousness and like love and this kind of stuff. And I came home so devastated because I
Hmm.
was like, well, let me go look at all these books about Jesus. Because
Sure.
surely
Yeah.
there's somebody outside of the Bible must have written about Jesus when he was alive.
You would
There was
think.
nothing.
Yeah.
And I said, so there's no historical reference for this Jesus person at all. And I was devastated. I was
Mm.
absolutely devastated. And that's when I just started like, okay, no, I can't do it anymore. I
Mm.
don't, this doesn't make any sense. There's no
Mm.
historical data that this person ever existed. There's
Mm.
contradictions.
Yeah.
Why would an all-knowing, all-loving God, knowing that human brains were going to be analytical and think these things through, why would he ever allow his word to have so many mistakes and contradictions and say it's good and say it's perfect?
Mm.
You mean to tell me this God who created the entire universe can't make sure his word is right?
Mm.
Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that was it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
that
it.
does it.
And that was a
Yeah, that
10-year journey. That was
nail in the
a 10-year
coffin, huh?
journey.
Do
Yeah.
you remember the moment when you realized it?
I had made the decision in my head. And I remember sneezing. And then I was like, I don't know what to say. Because normally when you sneeze, you say, God bless you. I don't believe in a God. And that was the moment when it first clicked to me, like, oh wow, it's gone. It's out of here. Right. And I remember waking up thinking like, well, who do I pray to now? Because that
Yeah.
was so much a part of my life, right?
Right. Right.
I don't have anything to pray to now. And so I started on this quest. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be this mystic. I'm going to search and, I'm going to seek all these spiritual pathways out. And I was actually talking to my brother. I think I was on his podcast, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Um, and he said, are you sure you're not trading one for another?
Okay.
Right. So you got rid of the Bible God, but now you're trying to
Mhm.
put something else in that place.
Oh,
Right.
okay. So like are you still you like oh okay. Okay.
hmm
So
Yeah.
what do
So,
you think about that?
at the time, I thought about it a lot, right?
Hmm.
Because I hadn't thought of it that way. I was thinking, oh, I need this spiritual connection. I need this spiritual grounding. I need something. It's just not that God of the Bible, but maybe there's another God or maybe there's something else. And
Yeah.
so I dug and I thought and I started looking at things logically. And here's what I realized:
Hmm.
there's not a single sacred text from a deity or from a God that has not ever come through another human.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. We communicate in language, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is the God is never connected to all of us at one time. None of the gods have.
Right.
It's always
Right.
come
Yeah.
through some other human to tell me
Yes.
what that God said. And it
Okay.
wasn't just
Right.
Christianity that was like that, it's every religion that was like that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
And I'm
So
like,
what did that do for you then? What did that
none of
how did
them,
that open up?
none of them were real.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're
None of
saying
them were real.
if the avenue to if the avenue always comes through a human being, then it can't be of supernatural origin.
Right.
Is that
Every
kind of
single
where you
it, well, it's not just necessarily supernatural origin. It's why do all gods why do they have that as the common denominator? Every
okay?
single one of them has to come through another person to give
Yeah,
us their message.
right.
There's never been
Would
any
you
single God that's talked to all the humans at the same time with the same message.
right. Right.
And that
And
didn't make
you
sense to
wouldn't
me.
give any credence to the fact that it's like how else would you communicate to a species other than through their own species?
Why wouldn't he talk to everybody directly?
Okay, yeah. No, I get that, and I
Right?
agree. I agree.
Humans,
I agree.
the
Yeah,
God that says that man's hearts are wicked,
yeah,
right? Why would he
yeah.
choose those people to be the ones that bring his word?
And you know that you're going to have people say, well, then if God communicated to everyone, what would be the need for faith? Like, where would faith come in?
Well, why do you need faith?
I agree. I don't see
Yeah,
any need. I don't understand, but they would say that that's your mortal, like issue.
yeah.
God requires faith, and that's not your concern.
Then my question is, why would he require faith? Because here's the argument that what Christians will say, well, God, he wants everybody to know him and come to him. Well, if you want everybody to know you and come to you, why not show up for everybody?
Yeah,
Like, why is faith required? And then they always say, well, God is the verse says God is the author and finisher of your faith. So if my faith isn't finished, then it's God's fault he didn't finish it, or he didn't even
that's
start in the
true.
first place.
But there is a scripture that says that God has given to every person the measure of faith. And
Right,
so
but it
you
comes
get
from
a
him.
seed or a measure, and then it's
Hmm.
up to you to cultivate it and grow it.
But he's the finisher
Oh, yeah. Well, he's the author and
and the
finisher.
finisher.
But you could say that like the soil is the finisher, but it's up to the farmer to cultivate and till the soil. So the soil is the finisher, but the farmer must till the land every
But
day.
that's not what the scripture says. The
That's true.
scripture says he's the
I'm
author.
being the
Yeah.
spin doctor.
Oh
I'm
yeah. And
sorry.
I love this part of the conversation. Yeah, I love because this is what I talk. This is what I ask. So that's nice, but that's not what the scripture says.
I know, but these are the things we do.
Oh yeah.
These
Oh
are the
yeah.
things that we're taught
Absolutely.
to do,
Oh,
especially in
absolutely.
Bible school. I mean, Brady went through the same shit. This is the
Uh-huh.
stuff we get taught to do. We
Yeah.
get taught how to, reread it and
Mm-hmm.
make it fit with your doctrine and your
Oh
theology
yeah.
so that you can go to heaven.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
it is really, it does seem silly in hindsight whenever I'm doing all this stuff and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but what about this? And what about you till the land? In hindsight, this stuff sounds ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I look back on it and I go, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this ridiculous, like it has to work. I have to
Yeah.
make it fit. And so I'll do anything. I'll do anything to twist those words and twist that scripture just enough to make it fit so that I still have salvation and my little model fits.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does get to a place to where it just kind of you start to see through it, right? Like it
Yeah.
just you can't do it anymore. You can't just
Yeah.
massage it to make it fit.
No, not at all. And I know you interviewed Brady, and I was on this journey. I think I was on this journey before he was.
True.
While he was was in college, and we would have these conversations, and because I would bring up things, and he would tell me, I remember the beginning days, he would tell me, you just don't understand the hermeneutics, and you have to do this. And
Yeah,
I said, listen,
hermeneutics.
bro, I said, why would a God require me to learn Hebrew and Greek in order to know him if he wants me to know him? I said, that's not fair. People don't have, not everybody has access to that. So why would he make it so that we have to go to Bible college and learn all that stuff if we wanted to know him? Doesn't make any sense. And he would
it's so
argue me
true.
down, and we'd have these conversations. And I remember like I wanted to have the conversations, and we did, but I was also hesitant, you know,
Yeah,
because I didn't want to like be the person that led him away. And because he was
right,
also a Christian rapper and he was
right.
in ministry, I didn't want to
Yeah,
write about it too much online because I was really concerned how it would affect him,
sure,
in his
sure.
ministry. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was it was I started asking a lot of questions and looking at things a lot more logically.
yeah.
And I spent a lot of time there, you know.
So, whenever you talk about thinking logically and spending your time there, what were the tools and some of the models that you kind of incorporated
Mhm.
into your thinking at that time to help you not totally crumble because you have this
Hmm.
framework of how the universe is, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
God, right? And that
Hmm.
holds up all of the universe. And you're slowly coming away from that, and you're developing tools and models to help you move forward and to
Hmm.
how you're going to live your life
Yeah.
without this framework, this strict
Yeah.
God framework. What did you use? How did you come out of it?
Hmm.
What were the ways that you did it in a healthy way for you?
Well, I had some real good therapy, right?
Okay, sure. Good. Yeah,
And I processed it. Like it took me 10 years to work through
sure.
this. It wasn't like I woke up and say I'm not a believer anymore, but I actually started doing the work to actually heal some from
Mm,
some trauma and from some of the depression and all those kinds of things and asking a lot of questions. So that's why if you take a look at my content, you'll see me asking a lot of questions. One of the biggest epiphanies for me was this whole thing around prayer, right?
okay.
Because as somebody who prayed and asked God to heal the depression and asked God to take away this spirit of depression and take away this spirit of sadness, take away this demon, all the things that we're taught that it is. And I remember getting to a place, I did a lot of journaling, right? And I remember getting to a place and I said, wait a minute, it wasn't that God was ignoring me, it's that he just didn't exist,
Oh wow, you came to that
right?
conclusion.
Oh yeah. Because if you think about
Wow.
it, if you're praying and praying and you're, well, how come God isn't answering my prayer? Like I'm watching him answer all these other people's prayers. I'm doing the things that I think I'm supposed to do. So what is it about me? And people will tell you this, and this is one of the most bullshit answers that makes me mad when I see people give it now. God's just using you for his glory. You're going to have an
Mm,
amazing testimony. You
mm,
were abused and you experienced this because it's part
mm.
of your story and God needed you to go through that.
You didn't
Bullshit.
like TD Jakes? That was one of TD Jakes' big messages.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I bought
Yeah.
into it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that feels like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go through suffering because that's going to bring
Mm.
me closer to God. It's like the thorn in Paul's side, right? It's going
Yeah.
to bring you closer to God and it's for his
Yeah.
glory.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't seem like love. And that's where, I started feeling like, and I started using the term, I'm breaking up with Jesus, right?
Mm.
Because what we say, and you'll hear people say this all the time, it's not religion, it's a relationship. I'm in a relationship with,
Yeah.
God, and I don't need the church because I'm like, this is a fucked up relationship.
Sounds creepy more than it
It's,
does justifying, actually.
oh, yeah, it's horrible. Think about it. You're supposed to do everything for the God's plan. He only answers your prayers if it's according to his will. It's
Right.
all for his glory.
Right.
What would Jesus do? Every part of our identity gets tied up into thinking and acting like Jesus. Don't trust your
Right.
own understanding,
Yeah.
right? It totally erases you as a person.
Right.
And, when you grow up in this, your teen years where you're supposed to be exploring and learning about yourself, they're gone because
Right.
everything has to conform to, well, what would Jesus do? That's what that I remember that in, youth,
Yeah.
like teen ministry.
Yeah.
Everybody, all the teenagers had the bracelets, right? What would Jesus do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally erasing your own, you know, knowing about yourself and just experiencing who you are and trying to figure out who you become because you're told that you have to be like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so did that occur to you at the same time when you
No.
realized that Jesus didn't exist, or that started slowly you started to understand these different dynamics that were working in society and in your
Mhm.
community and things like that, but that didn't
Yeah,
happen at the same time where you
it
all of a
didn't.
sudden realize, oh, there is no God.
No. What happened was when I stepped away and said, well, there is no God, and I started taking a look at my life and realized, okay, well, if this isn't conviction,
Yeah.
right? If this
Mm-hmm.
isn't the enemy trying to
Mm-hmm.
weigh me down, if I didn't experience these things in my life for God's glory and it was because he wanted me to have a testimony, then what is this?
Right.
And so when I started taking a look at it from there, it was like, wait a minute, there's some things here. why do I respond the way I do? Oh, well, there was abuse and there was trauma. And, that was one of the big things for me is that the church never teaches you how to heal. It teaches you how to be codependent, right? You're
Wow.
responding to you're responding
That's
to
deep, Ty.
trauma. Oh,
Yeah.
but it gets really bad. You're responding to
Mm-hmm.
trauma. And people will tell you that you are being disobedient, that, you're not letting God use you, that it's the
Mm-hmm.
devil, it's the enemy, and you just need to
Mm-hmm.
pray it away. You need to worship more. You
Mm.
need to go to the altar. Let me get some more oil on you. And your nervous system
Gas,
is jacked
just
up.
totally, just
Yeah.
making you forget about your emotions, forget about yourself. Don't think
Yeah.
about what you actually have going on.
Hmm.
Don't self heal. Don't self assess. Just do what we tell you to, and you'll be all right.
Just leave it on the altar. Just give it to
Leave it on
Jesus,
the altar. Leave it on the
right?
altar.
And you're
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know. What else do I do to give it to Jesus?
Mm.
Because I'm doing all the things. And I
Yeah, we
spent
didn't have
so
any
many,
tools, did we?
no tools at all.
Mm.
And that's where I got to. So out of the deconstruction, and I could have, and I started down the track of like, okay, let me deconstruct the Bible stories and let me become this Bible scholar and start looking at the history and all those things. But what I was more bothered by and what I was more curious about was how does this impact how we live and how we think?
Mm.
If all of our identity is
Right.
tied to just Jesus and his God, how do we make decisions? How do
Mm.
we, view our relationships? Everything is filtered through that. What happens when you take that filter off? And so the line that I use now is what happens when you put down the cross and pick up your pen and rewrite your own story? Because we've been living the gospel story, we've been living this Jesus story, and it's not helping people. It's not making a difference. So
Mm.
what if we let that go and we rewrite the story?
I love that. I love that. And it's a good segue for us to talk about your book because
Yeah.
you are doing that very thing. So tell everyone where we can get your book, where we can find you, your story, more
Yeah,
about
well,
this.
the book is actually Breaking Up with Jesus.
Okay.
And it's taken on a couple of iterations. It went from I'm angry and I'm going to write this breakup letter in the form of
Yeah.
a book, to actually taking a look at the toxic beliefs
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of women, it's both men too, but a lot of women kind of hold on to. There was a woman
Mm-hmm.
in my comments, and you can actually, the book is at, it's still being in development. But if you go to breakingupwithjesus.com, you can join the wait list and get like, we'll send out the first chapter and all those things.
And
But
we'll
there was a
drop a
woman.
link in the comments, breakingupwithjesus.com, and
Mhm.
make sure I'll try to drive as much traffic as I can because I do believe that your whole family's gifted, but I love your story and I think you have something to offer. So
I appreciate
breakingupwithjesus.com,
that.
and then please continue.
Yeah, there was a woman in my comments once, and she was like, "I'm nothing without God." And that struck me, but that's what we're taught, right? You're nothing
Yeah.
without God.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, I don't think a lot of Christians realize this, but in order to be in relationship with this God, you have to acknowledge that you're a sinner,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
if the only way for me to get into relationship with you is for me to say that I'm a sinner and I'm not worthy, that's pretty fucked up. We would never date somebody who says, well, if you want to date me, you have to call yourself a sinner and an unworthy person. So do that and
Yeah.
then we can talk. You would never do that.
Yeah. It reminds me of in hindsight, I thought about this years and years later. I don't know if you remember this, but Bill Cosby's comedy special, he said he and his brother's name were Jesus Christ and Damn It.
Uh-huh. That's Bill Cosby himself.
Yeah.
I remember
And
that.
he talked about how his brother, it was come home, Jesus Christ, damn it. And it kind of reminds me is you get set in this like that's who I am. That's like and he talked about how and I know Bill Cosby's you know we have
Creepy.
our it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it almost kind of is striking. It's like the dude went through a life of what we're talking about, of
Yeah.
people telling you, I brought you into this world, I can take you out of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
our purpose was, we didn't know what it was if it was without a God, because
Yeah.
otherwise, we were taught a lot that we were an inconvenience, out of sight, out of mind, keep your mouth
Mhm.
shut until you're spoken to.
Yeah.
Growing up, if we didn't have Jesus to give us value and God to give us personal identity and value, we weren't given it any other place a lot of
Oh,
times.
yeah.
And so it's where we got it from. And that's where the confidence came from. And that's where, you could draw from when you needed strength and energy. And in
Mm-hmm.
hindsight, it just robbed us from our personal journey, what we were
Yeah.
supposed to be on our own.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you should be valued because you exist. Like the fact that you exist is such
Mm-hmm.
a rare phenomenon. You're one in a billion sperm cells and egg combination, trillions. Like
Yeah.
the fact that you exist is a miracle. The fact that you exist and
Mm-hmm.
you matter because you exist, and that is cool.
Yeah.
Like we never were given that. We were given, you exist because I exist, and I exist because God exists, and
Yeah.
you need me and I need God, and you need both of us, and that's your whole journey. And that's
Yeah.
what we were given.
Oh,
And
yeah. But our
getting
whole
on the other side of
existence,
that is just beautiful to see you do that.
well, our whole existence, remember, is to glorify God. That's man's
That's it.
purpose, right? That's what we were
That's it.
taught. It's to
Yeah.
glorify God. And I remember
Mhm.
asking the question, glorify him to who and for what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. To whom? To
yeah,
whom does God need us to share his glory?
right.
To who's the audience?
Exactly. Exactly. But all those little phrases, when they're sewn into you, they're stitched into you, they're embedded into how you think. That's
I
the journey.
remember
Yeah.
there was an episode of, did you ever watch the Atheist Experience, the back when Austin had their Mattville
No.
Hunty and all that stuff?
Mm-mm.
Um
I know those folks, but I never watched that, the Atheist
Okay.
Experience.
Well, there was this lady named Tracy Harris who was on there. And I remember the first time she said something along those lines that just blew my mind,
Mm-hmm.
along, just that whole area. Say what you just said, and then it'll remind me how she responded to that.
Gosh, I can't. Oh, that we were all for his glory, that everything was for his, like, that's our only purpose was for God's glory. And
Yes.
who did,
And she,
and who does he show it to?
yes. And she said to the caller, um, if there were a being who were completely perfect and had everything they needed, in what universe would this being ever warrant or need praise of any kind? If
Yeah.
they were completely all self sufficient, all
Hmm.
perfect,
Yeah.
in what universe could they possibly ever desire or need or want praise
Hmm.
of any
Yeah.
kind?
Yeah.
If they're completely perfect in all cases, how?
Yeah.
Why? And it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It just immediately, when you go, oh yeah, why the fuck would I care? If I were
Yeah.
the most amazing thing that ever existed, I wouldn't give a fuck about anything else.
Well, I wrote something and somebody got mad at me about it. I said, God is the ultimate pick me girl, right?
Yeah.
He does everything for us to like pick him. Oh, I'm gonna
I
show
promise
Pharaoh.
I'm the best.
Exactly, right. I'm gonna show Pharaoh, with all these plagues because I want them to pick me. I'm gonna send my son because I want them to pick me.
Oh,
Like,
that's great.
seriously, like, why do we need to pick you? If we don't pick you, we're going to go to hell.
Exactly.
Why do you so desperately need us to choose you? Why do you need us to have this faith to believe like that, who needs that? Humans need that. An
Yes.
all-knowing, all-powerful God wouldn't need that.
Such a human thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right.
And
Yes.
I say that about Jesus too. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, why would God send somebody in a Halloween costume? And they get
What's this
mad when
dude
we don't,
doing cursing a fig tree that's not in season?
well,
What?
think about it. He came disguised as a carpenter. Who the fuck would believe that a carpenter is a savior? Like, why would you disguise yourself? Like, he could have disguised himself as a king, as a pharaoh.
Bro,
Why would you disguise
dude,
yourself as a carpenter?
honestly, we could have had an Elon Musk. We could have had a fucking anybody right now could have actually been a
Uh-huh.
messiah and done the right thing for all of humanity. Any of these fucking multi-billionaire richest dudes in the world, they could have been
Mhm.
like, you know what? I got this solved. But no.
No, no, it just doesn't make any
We got a
sense.
carpet. We got a guy that makes sandals, you know.
Exactly. But then gets mad at the humans when they don't recognize him.
Yeah, you fuckers.
Right. He was a car, and I said this too. He was a carpenter with 12 broke friends. None of the disciples had any money. Some of them were illiterate,
They're like, we're sick of fishing, dog. If you can teach us
right?
how to do card tricks and stage magic, we are all in.
It really
Show
becomes
us how to do some
laughable.
chiropractic adjustments out here on the street.
Do something, but they couldn't do anything. And
No.
then you get into the real thinking of it, like because people say, well, Judas was evil and it was the Jews that killed him. But the reality of it is, if the Bible is supposed to be true, then they have to do that.
Yeah.
Because without Judas, there would have been no crucifixion.
Yeah,
Without
exactly.
the
He
Jewish
did what he
people
was
saying
supposed to do.
exactly. And so if he
It
didn't, so
makes
why do
no
you blame
sense that
him?
if you are the designed tool of God, you don't go kill yourself.
Right.
No. You
But
did the
why would
right
God
thing.
design him that
You come
way?
back to the fold and you go, "Hey guys, that was my role. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's I did
exactly.
what I had to do."
It was another setup, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it
Because
was just
they
another
had to
setup,
do
guys.
it.
Yeah. But no,
Right.
he goes and hangs himself or falls over head first and
Yeah, they
dies
can't
with his
make up their mind.
bowels spewing out or whatever, like a bunch of fake shit.
Exactly. Which one is it, right?
Which one
Yeah.
actually happened, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
Exactly.
this has been awesome. Okay, so the book, one more time, let's plug the book.
Yeah, Breaking Up with
Breaking Up with
Jesus.com.
Jesus.
And the subtitle is Escaping Christian Codependency.
Christian codependency.
Hmm.
And if there's anything that you could basically say to, in general, the community at large, people who are
Hmm.
deconstructing, people who might be looking at this and going, let me get a little bit of information about this Thai chick. Like, why did she step
Hmm.
away? Why did she do this? What would be your main, like, this is what I'm saying in the book. This is the main thing I want you to take away from my
Yeah.
journey.
Well, where I am now, where
Yes.
I've landed now is that I've taken a look at, especially for a lot of women, and
Mm-hmm.
I've taken a look at the relationships that we've built with ourselves, with our families, with the men in our lives. And I'm realizing how much the beliefs of Christianity impact those things, right?
Okay.
We've become pleasers. We've become people who don't know who we
Oh,
are
so this
without
is
a God.
is a relationship book as well.
Oh, well, yeah, it leans towards that. But
Okay.
if we can get out of that broken relationship with Jesus, with that God who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't show up when he's supposed to show up, right? If we can let go of that, then it opens us up to heal and to really become whole. Because when we cling to that, we
Oh,
can't
I
do
love that.
otherwise.
I love
Yeah.
that. So
Hmm.
it's a journey of healing, stepping away from that expectation that this ancient Hebrew Jew is going to save you, and realizing that
Yeah.
it's okay that you are yourself, and kind
Yeah,
of connecting with that journey.
yeah, you don't have to settle for that kind of relationship where God who only shows up when it suits him.
Oh yeah.
You deserve
Okay.
better. We deserve better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So a real relationship.
absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
that. I love that.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
basically saying, there's more to life than this abstract idea that
Yeah.
if you open yourself up, that there are real relationships that we deserve in life,
Yeah, and we need to
connection
let go of
and
that
real
one because
humanity.
we need to let go of that one because of how it causes us to see ourselves. And it
Gotcha.
focuses on three things like why we say yes to the relationship in the first
Oh, a
place.
conditional relationship like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why we stay in the relationship, right? Even
Gotcha.
after we know something's wrong, because there's a
Yeah.
sense of belonging and all that. And then how we break up with it, how we leave it.
Man, that's awesome, Ty.
Mhm.
I'm excited to read the book.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get it out. It's been a journey. It really has been.
Awesome. Well, hey, if you want to do it again, I'm happy to do it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
put this together. We'll have it posted in probably in the next 72 hours, and
Okay.
just really, really appreciate you sharing your journey with me.
Yeah, this has been such a fun conversation, James. I'm so glad you reached out and let me know so I can share this with folks.
Awesome. Thanks, Ty. Have a great
All
night.
right. You too. Bye-bye
All right.
now.
Bye bye.